So we're going to have an amazing conversation today about wealth, and this is just the start. So we have our very own Juan Martinez from here, Las Vegas. So Juan, let's get started with your journey to building generational wealth. Tell us how that started and kind of where you're at today. So just so you guys know, he usually answers whatever he wants, so he might go into a different topic. Just FYI, full disclosure, okay? So.
Hello, everybody. How are we doing? You guys excited about the marketplace? No? That's the problem here. We got to be excited. Half the real estate agents are out of the business. Half the loan officers are out. That means there's more opportunity and more business for all of you. So you should be excited about what's coming over the next 6 months. Okay, so what was the question? Let's go to work here.
Yes, so what has been your journey in wealth building, right? So tell us about that.
Well, I would start off with our family and how things came about. My family came from Cuba in the early 60s. On my father's side, all of my family, all my uncles and aunts, grandparents, in the early 60s, they came to Las Vegas for whatever reason. I just heard the story the other day from my uncle, who had two uncles at my house. One uncle is a well-known architect here in Las Vegas, Domingo Cambero, and he was a great architect for 50 years and now retired, extremely wealthy. And so, you get to hear the stories. But they came here, and I think in 1965, May of 65, my grandparents started a grocery business. And that grocery business lasted 50 years, which ultimately my father took over, and then me and my brother, and I was in the grocery business for my first 10 years. And so my mentor, one of three mentors, was my father. And the Cuban culture is, the old school Cuban culture is you pay cash, you're free and clear, you're debt free. And that's just how the old school Cubans, operate. And so through
old
that,
school or the new school? Are you old school or new school?
I'm old school.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
I prospect for a living.
Old school, 100%.
So over the years, I spent 10 years in the grocery business, understanding business, and spent a lot of time there. Learned a lot from the old man. And, my grandparents worked really hard for their kids. Then my parents worked hard for us to give us a better future. You guys know the story there. And then we work really hard to give our kids a future for them. And that's how that generational wealth, continues. And so I learned a lot through the years of, being debt-free, be free and clear. And that's kind of how that path to generational wealth continued over time.
So Juan,
so for the last, when we talk about generational wealth, please understand that you can't have generational wealth if you don't work. And we're in an industry where a lot of practitioners do not work, or they just put in a little bit of time and a little bit of effort. And so I would caution you on that. So let me add a little bit more to this.
Of course you will, yep.
So when I was in the grocery business, we would work 6-7 days a week. We would work, 80 hours. That was the norm. We were open 7 days a week. We would close 2 days out of the year, Christmas and New Year's Day. So when I came into the real estate business in 2001, the work ethic that came from the grocery business and the family business, I moved into real estate for whatever reason. And I worked 7 days a week, and I did that for my first 10 years, okay? And in that 10 years as a real estate agent, I did over $16 million in commissions. And during that 10-year span from 2001 to 2011, end of 2011, I sold over 4,000 homes. But let me tell you, that was a major sacrifice. It was a lot of work. It was working 7 days a week. It was a sacrifice on family. It was a sacrifice on everything, right? Eventually that led to 6 days, and it got to a point where I had a pretty good system, and then of course the recession hit of 2007, 2008, and it was back to working 7 days a week. And so that So please know that when, the topic I think here is building wealth or generational wealth, man, you got to work. And so I think I'm a great observer of the industry, and I watch the habits of practitioners, and it's a challenge, because if I'm at the office at 7 or 8 o'clock at night and nobody's there, or nobody's there at 5 or 6, you can't build wealth, working part-time.
So Juan, just really quick to touch on this. So wealth building was pretty much, it was given to you, not given to you, but it was given to you. Yeah, well, let's say instilled by your parents, right? So by helping him run that, grocery store. When you walked into real estate, you said, I don't know why I got into real estate, but you did. Did you bring anything of that your father kind of was able to support you with, help you with? Because I think that's the biggest part of wealth building, is when your generation can help the next generation, right? Could you say you received that from your father?
Yeah, no doubt. And it
100%.
wasn't that the lessons that he was teaching me, it's observing over the years, right? And the things that he would do that I would laugh about when I was in my 20s, and I said, why does he do this, or why does he do that? And it's like saying he had a 1990 Lincoln Town Car, and he just ran that thing to the ground, bald tires, wouldn't change the tires out. And 30 years later, or 20-something years later, I find myself, doing the same stuff that he did back then. So it was by observation and watching the way he did. I mean, my father's very wealthy today. He's got a high net worth, and doesn't owe a penny, and just super comfortable, super great. And guess what he's doing with all of his money? He's passing it on to his kids and grandkids, right? That's generational wealth. So
moving on to this room here, and the practitioners that we have, the impact that we are able to have within our clients, and even for our own, opportunity to build wealth. What would you say is the real opportunity here for us in regards to understanding, and how do we develop that in others? How do you say that for you it came about to say, you know what, yes, hard work, that's your motto, hard work, more money, everybody knows that, of course, but on top of that, was there anything additional that came to you, or that you would say to us in this room?
First, welcome, Gary Acosta. Welcome to NAHREP.
Yes, big
Thank
round
you.
of applause, yes.
You built a beautiful thing, my friend. I see we only got like 12 minutes.
You have, yes.
So time is going by quickly.
I know you want to definitely tell him to get to work, not be lazy, stay long hours, get to the office early.
We know all that. So I would say this, in the last 10 years, by the way, don't think that the first 10 years was a lot of work, and then the second 10 years I transitioned into building a brokerage and coaching and training a big sales force. And don't think that anything has changed. I still work 6-7 days a week. I still put a lot of hours in. I still leave the office at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And at this point, after doing it for 22, 23 years, I'm not proud of it, but I have a very, a big picture that I'm chasing and going after. And so I'll try to condense this and try to hopefully provide something important for all of you. It's for the last 20 years, I've been passionate about wealth building, and I don't know if I was born with that in my DNA, to really understand the roots of money and how money goes. And at this point where I'm at now, the number continues to grow, but and that's fun to watch, and it's fun to grow business. But there's also, at this point, it is building wealth. That number just keeps multiplying bigger and bigger and getting more and more momentum. But I spent a lot of years studying where to put money. I spent 30 years in buying real estate and getting a better understanding of that. And I've been through the good and bad. I've been through the heavy recession and pay out a lot of money to retain everything that I've had. I never gave up, never stopped, never let anything foreclose. Always took full responsibility for everything that I did. And so I would say for the last 10 or 15 years, I've really spent time really having a good understanding of my money and how to manage my money. And so when we talk about generational wealth, I think I have a path that works for me and a really good understanding of where I want to put my money, okay? And so that leads into how do we pass that on to our kids and grandkids? And I'll tell you, probably for the last, I would say, 13 or 15 years, I've been teaching the kids about money and where to put money. I have a lot of money put away for them, probably $1 million plus between the nephews and nieces and all the kids. And I've taught them over time my beliefs and why. So we get together probably once a month or every couple months, and we get together and we talk about the stock market, we talk about where we have our money, we talk about the differences of real estate to the stock market. I'll give you a quick little belief systems that I have. It is work very hard, to ultimately be debt-free. And then if you think about this, you know, one challenge is for practitioners is that they work, they make 100, they make 200,000, and they spend all that money. And then the market shifts, as we've seen 50% drop in transactions.
I want to interrupt real quick. So just quickly, so you guys probably know, I know Juan for 1,000 years. And so I remember back in 2011, 2010, you know, he had his office, and it was so interesting to me because out of all these things he had to do, he was an REO agent, had a lot of meetings. I think it was when he was with NAHREP. He would sit through his monthly credit card statement, and he would go through it line by line and then call, you know, his business partner or his, you know, his wife and then his daughter, and he would question. And I was sitting in the room, and I'm just like, he's taking all of this time, right? And it was just like line by one. I remember sitting there and thinking, like, is this necessary? Is this necessary? As I started maturing as well financially, I realized that absolutely you can earn a lot of money, but if you don't know how to take care of it and save it, right, which is where we're at right now. Like you said, we have a lot of big earners here today possibly, but what are you doing to keep it, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I'll give you a philosophy here. And by the way, it's debit card, not credit card. We don't use credit cards.
There we
don't need the credit, and so we're either debit card or cash. But here's some concepts here is that you work really hard, you pay things off, you're free and clear, and then what? And you say, what do you do, right? What do you do with the money? Well, if you could control your expenses and control your lifestyle, you should be able to create at least an overage to make any dent when we talk about generational wealth. Well, you should be able to do it if you are a lender or in the real estate business. And so if you really want to make a dent, you take $100,000 a year and then you compound that over 10 years, that's $1 million. If you want to talk about being a millionaire, okay, it's actually not that difficult. You just have to put a little bit more work and effort in. So for me, I think that there's a couple vehicles when you are at a position where you're free and clear. By the way, the stress drops dramatically when you are free and clear. But think about it. When you are free and clear, what can you do with your money? You could enjoy the money, you could invest the money, or you could give the money away. Giving the money away, philanthropy is one of the hardest things that you could possibly do because you spent your whole life building wealth to ultimately then give it to other people, okay? Or you can give it to your family and build generational wealth. But if we talk about enjoying your life, being debt-free and having an abundance of money, great, enjoy, do whatever it is that you want to do there. But when we talk about investing, where could you invest? And for me, it's going to be either the stock market, and sure, there's a lot to talk about there, but the two main things is going to be real estate, whether it's commercial or residential, that you have to decide on. And then number two is going to be the stock market, okay? And so I'll just share with you a couple things here. Owning real estate and having a lot of real estate, the numbers for me haven't made sense for a long time now. Some of you guys flip. I think that's a business in itself. I don't really know if that's building generational wealth, and that's probably a different category. But when we talk about buying real estate, I think you guys got to know your numbers. Like if you told me, hey, you could pick this house up for $350,000, I say, great, let me look at it. I'll look what the values are, look what it costs to get it up and running, close the deal, the cost to close it, the cost that it's going to take to clean the place up, get it to market, and then I could give you a full breakdown on a rental property and say, okay, gross rents are going to be this, but I got property management expenses, I got 1 month built into vacancy rates, 1 month of repairs built into it, and the list goes on. Like the other day, an AC went out on one of our properties at $5,100. Okay, so you got to build all that in. So when you do all those numbers, let's just say that I buy a house for $350,000 cash. The return on investment is like 2 or 2.5% ROI, not including appreciation or depreciation of the property. So at a 2.5% return, for me, I'd rather be in the stock market, right, and do an index fund and for the entire stock market, or an index fund for the S&P. And on average, for the last 30 years, the returns have been 8%, 8.1%. Sure, there are years that are 11, 12. Last year, we got beat up, and lost a good amount, a percentage, but it recovered. Like right now, I would say at this point today, the losses that we took last year, we're back to that number again, right? It's like saying the values of home here in Vegas were at 325. They dropped, and they ultimately came back and compounded or got even, are now at 400,000. Point is that it isn't just real estate to build generational wealth. And let me tell you something. I buy an investment property and we call it passive income. There isn't passive, because you got to work, you got to maintain, you got to deal with a property manager, you got to do it yourself, or you got to do it with the calls. So again, for me, 2 vehicles. It's either stock market, okay, or I'm going to buy real estate. And hey, 2.5% returns are not bad. It's okay, but I'd rather be in the stock market, and 24/7 that business is working for me. We invest a lot in the S&P 500. Now, this is after years and years of studying and seeing what's right and what's wrong of my own opinion. Because I could get any type of broker, whatever, and tell me, well, you should do this and you shouldn't do that. And it's like, no, I control my money. I get solicited all the time, right? It is, and so what I would say is the education that I put myself through, self-taught, of where I want to put my money to build that generational wealth, I take the time to teach my kids. So if you went to any of my nephew, nieces, or any of my kids, they'd pull up their account in 2 seconds, and they're monitoring their money, they're watching their money. We talk about it. When they panic, when the market is dropping, there was a lot of that last year, and I'd send a family text to the group, hey, this is what happens. When everybody's panicking and everybody's pulling out, that's when we got to go in even stronger, okay? We're betting on this country, and it's the greatest country of all time.
So no, I think that's a lot of information, Juan. So tonight, if somebody wanted to get started, maybe we have some people that have mature understanding of it, maybe stocks, real estate, but somebody wanted to get started today from audience with their family, clearly, monitoring it, extending what you know to them. But if they don't know, where would they start? If they don't understand stocks, and now they have to go do the research that you've done for how many years?
A long time.
A long time, exactly. So how could they start if they don't have that much time? And the opportunities today, they're making money, they don't know where to put it, and they need to be wise about it.
I think before anybody does any type of investment, you should be working on paying your debt off, and again, being free and clear. And by the way, that's a painful path, right? It's a tough path. But there's nothing wrong with, like, let's just say, it doesn't make sense to invest and get a 2.5% return or 5 or 8% from the stock market, and then you're paying 10 or 20% in credit card expenses, right? Or you're paying a car that's 9%, but you're trying to buy real estate and to get a 2.5% return. That doesn't make sense. And so what I would say to you guys is work really hard to pay debt off, okay? And then let's just say that you have your home. Great. You have to self-educate. You got to understand how the stock market works. You gotta read business news. You have to understand that space. And then in regards to real estate, we assume that we know everything about real estate, but in reality, if you go and purchase a property and you go through all the risks and all the headaches and everything else, then you will self-teach yourself. So yes, I think you should, and we could talk about this for hours, whether you buy real estate or not. Yes, buying real estate, investing in the stock market, which would make you guys feel uncomfortable, you'd be more comfortable in the real estate space. But yes, you have to do it, but you got to go down the right path. So I would say this. Let's see if I could cover this here really quickly. Everybody should be investing in a 401k. Everybody should be investing into a Roth or a traditional IRA. So a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA is any independent contractor can do it. For the 401k, the realtors can do it, but it's a little bit more challenging to get that set up. Let's just say a 401k, let's say we take Ruben. Ruben is, how old are you, Ruben, 30? 31. So let's just say that Ruben maxed out his 401k every year. And I would say the limits for him right now are probably $22,500. Hopefully he has some form of employer match. And so let's just say that he's putting $30,000 a year into his 401k, and the limits will continue climbing, year after year. But if he put $30,000 in, let's just say in 40 years, he's probably going to have some net worth just from his 401k, probably 8 or 10 million plus, if he only invested the $20,000+ a year. Okay. If he did a Roth IRA, okay, or traditional or Roth meaning that he is paying after taxes towards his IRA, so when he pulls the money out at the age of 65 or 70, it's tax-free money. That would be the Roth side. Okay, so let's say he put on a Roth IRA, I think the limits right now are $6,500. So if he put $6,500 in his Roth IRA each year, and then 35 or 40 years later, he's probably going to have somewhere between $3 and $5 million. Okay, and so you want to talk about net worth or generational wealth and all that stuff. This is one vehicle that he could do that the government provides that he could grow that. So by the way, it is for our Roth IRA. We do this with the kids, and we do it. I got one daughter, my oldest daughter, who's just turned 30. So she's an attorney, well-known law firm here in Las Vegas. And so with her, I have forced her, because she goes from getting out of law school and not making much money to now, making 200 plus a year. And so I said, hold up here, let's keep the lifestyle here, keep everything free and clear, working on getting her home paid off. Let me share with her really quick. She is putting the full amount, the $22,500 to 401k, plus a match. She's putting the $30K a year. So not only that, she's maxing out her Roth IRA. Just those two vehicles alone, at the age of 65 or 70, she's probably going to have just a net worth with those two vehicles, probably $12 to $15 million at that time. She wouldn't have to do anything else. She wouldn't have to complicate her life with anything else. Now, that overage, if she can do that, plus put another additional $100,000 post-tax away into the S&P 500 at an 8% return, at the age of 65 or 70, she would probably have a net worth of 30 million plus.
Plus,
it's that simple.
She's inheriting the Americana regime, so
that's right.
Yep, absolutely. So
there's add another 100 million
yep.
there.
Yes, there we go. So thank you very much, Juan. Thank you guys all tonight. Our time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.